In this episode, Darrell and I discuss if you should build a tool for a niche where you're not an expert. Do you have a right to play in an area where you have not reached the top yet? Darrell and I were co-founders of a company called Realbase, where I was CTO and he was head of product. We entered the market without knowing anything about the industry and later went on to sell the company for 180 million. Let's jump in and hear the convo. Building a tool for YouTubers without a background as a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Not being an expert.
Yeah. So this one came about. I was reading someone's newsletter email and they were talking about the Wright brothers, who obviously invented the aeroplane, had zero qualifications in aviation. And the things that made them able to do it weren't related to aviation. They were related to the push bike industry that they'd been in before. And I just thought it was an interesting comparison because I've always had that, I guess, the imposter syndrome of, if you've never done YouTube, do you have any right trying to start software for a YouTuber? But I think the context and the background that people have, they should always be aware that like it doesn't preclude them doing something for a different industry, because a lot of the time you get like little tweaks that other people wouldn't necessarily think about.
Correct. So yeah, I totally agree. Like I think sometimes you almost have an advantage coming in not knowing. Like we did this as well. Like I'll throw back a Real Hub reference, but we did the same thing. We weren't printers and signboard people. We didn't know
Yep.
what was the norm. Like if you came from a print or signboard company norm, you'd say, yeah, well, a normal delivery is 2 to 3 days because that's how long it takes to do a signboard. And we're like,
Yep.
but you can do it in an hour. Why would you
Yep.
do it in 2 days? So we just didn't know. We were just like, well, if you can do it in an
Yeah, like
hour, why don't you
we
do it?
hadn't seen the scale that meant it had to take 2 days, so we didn't understand
Yeah.
why it shouldn't take a day.
So
Yeah,
you can come in with different views. Like people say, like, no, you can't do it that way. And it's like, well, why not? Because we came from a software background. So we thought of it in a different angle. And I think the same applies here with YouTube. We come through it as a software angle. We come through it as as a team management project. Like, how do you
yeah,
manage your team? Like, that's where we're coming from. Not so much like, how do you film it or make the best thumbnail? Like, we're not saying that that's what we can do. We're not saying we're the best thumbnail creators in the world. We're not saying we write the best hooks, we make the best videos. What we're saying is we're building the best tool to enable you to do
yeah.
those things.
How do you actually manage the entire thing?
Yeah, because we know,
Yeah,
like, well, when we're building something, how are we actually meant to manage? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, we got it in Notion or whatever.
yeah,
And you're like, but how do you scale that? Because that's where we come from. We go like, how do you actually scale this? How do you make it like you're a big businessman, you're a CEO, you've just sold your company, you now want to get into the content space. That's the angle we come from. Not,
yeah,
oh yeah, like I'm killing it on YouTube and I know how to I get heaps of views on my live stream playing Counter-Strike. Like, yeah, you are better at us at YouTube. You are.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not saying anything like that, but we know that we can make a really good tool that can help you actually manage it as you grow. And I think that's the
yeah,
key. It's like when those people kind of grow, and like we've heard horror stories of other big creators that where the process is just a mess.
yeah.
And like, yeah, it works, but like, could it work better? Like, could you
Yeah,
say
I mean,
not
I've experienced Notion at scale trying to do complex things when we tried to do the um, template job manager platform, and then the contrast of building it ourselves, like purpose built, is night and day difference. Like
yeah,
Notion gets real complex at big scale; it gets real confusing, and any of those tools will do the same. So
yeah. So I don't think it's like a big I don't think it is a negative. I think it is a positive. Like at the same time, we can, like you said the other day, which I just saw in the video that I was editing, was um, we mustn't forget what we were like when we started, because
yep,
we're I guess earlier on the journey than most successful YouTubers. So we're still learning things. Like we learned about packaging in the last couple of months, whereas they've known for packaging for 10 years. But
yep,
when you start, you don't know what that means. You say packaging, and
yep,
what's packaging? I don't know what that means. The package you put it in a box, like I don't know.
yep.
Like so, like how do we now deliver that to people who are starting as well, and who have money? Because like it could be a really successful person has lots of money, can spend money. They don't understand the
It
terms. So how?
doesn't yeah, and doesn't have the time to watch 600 hours of YouTube content to try and get it, or sit down and watch a course or attend a course or anything like that.
Yeah. So I think that's where these kind of tools are really powerful. It's like it can boil down a whole bunch of learning into a course that just it's not a course, but it's just forcing you down the right path. And it's like saying, hey, don't forget this thing. Like you don't have to do it, but check it out. Like probably write a hook. Probably start with your packaging. Like that's a good it's a good practice. It's general practice
Yeah.
of all the big boys. So how about you do that? And like it gives you that step up day one. So versus someone who doesn't use the tool, you're already better than them because you're already doing things that they're not doing. So I think that's where, us not being experts actually helps because they have very different things. Like if you see all the tools that experts make, and what are they? 1 of 10 view stats, vidIQ, because that's what they care about. They care about, when you're at the top, it's like, what's a good video? How do I copy that video and make one of my own? That's all they
Yeah.
do. That's what they're doing, right?
Yeah, you're talking about people who are trying to turn 100 or 200,000 views a video into 1 million views a video, not necessarily someone who's trying to get their first 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, different audiences, different markets, and different. Yeah, they have different things to think about. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
why it's actually it's a pro for us.